A Russian missile just crashed into a NATO country and exploded. NATO scrambled fighter jets, and for a few tense minutes, Allied forces were seconds away from shooting it down over their own territory. This is the story everyone should be watching right now because NATO airspace is supposed to be the line Russia doesn't cross. Let's break down exactly what happened. Here's the timeline. Overnight, Russia launched a massive combined missile and drone barrage at western Ukraine, one of the largest of the summer. In the middle of that attack, a missile crashed into Polish territory and came down in a field near the village Tarnawa Kolunia, close to Lublin, roughly 90 kilometers inside Poland. It exploded, leaving a crater about 10 meters wide. Locals said the blast shook their windows around 4 in the morning. No injuries, no structural damage, but that's almost beside the point because of where it landed. Poland's Prime Minister Donald Tusk went to the site himself and said the evidence pointed to a Russian Kh-101 cruise missile. Ukraine's Prime Minister backed that off, confirming it's a Kh-101 that had crossed directly into NATO airspace. Now, here's the detail that should really grab you. NATO didn't just note this and move on. It activated real defenses. Two Polish F-16s, a NATO refueling aircraft, and a Polish early warning plane and a helicopter were all scrambled in response. And according to a senior NATO military official, Allied forces were seconds away from actually shooting the missile down before they assessed it was going to crash on its own. Think about that. NATO forces came within seconds of firing on a Russian missile inside NATO airspace. That's about as close as this war has come to direct NATO-Russia contact. So, was this an incident? Was this an accident or something more deliberate? Honestly, right now nobody outside of Moscow knows for sure, and I'm not going to pretend otherwise. But there are a few details fueling real suspicion. First, the missile was tracked and pursued by Polish forces for several minutes before it came down, and it landed in an empty field, threatening no one. Second, that field happens to be in the same area where Ukrainian President Zelensky had met with Poland's Prime Minister just hours earlier. Third, this isn't an isolated incident. Poland has dealt with repeated drone and missile incursions over the past year, including a huge number of Russian drones crossing its airspace back in September. So you have got a pattern of repeated incursions, precise timing right after a high-profile meeting, and a missile that landed somewhere harmless instead of somewhere populated. That combination is exactly why some analysts are asking whether this could be a deliberate test of NATO's response rather than pure chance. Here's something important that I think gets lost in the scarier headlines. NATO has not invoked Article 4, the formal mechanism that triggers a full alliance-wide discussion about the response. That's being used 3 times since Russia's full invasion began, and it was not triggered here. NATO Secretary General called it yet another reckless act by Russia, and the alliances says it will keep defending every inch of its territory. But so far, this is being treated as a serious warning shot, not the start of a direct conflict. That distinction matters. This is escalation adjacent to NATO, not NATO actually entering the war. So, is this World War III? Not yet, and not officially, but a Russian missile landing on a NATO soil with Allied just seconds from firing on it. It's about as close as this war has come to a direct NATO-Russia confrontation. Whether this was an accident or a message, Russia now knows exactly how NATO responds when it happens. And that matters for whatever comes next. I'll be tracking this closely, especially if there's another incursions. Subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of that, and let me know in the comments. Accident or international test, what was it? See you in the next one.